The rain was hammering the
You are
roof
not
of the
getting
old
away
chapel
with
like
this.
it wanted in. I stood there alone in the front pew, suit soaked through from the walk from the car, water pooling around my shoes on the worn wooden floor. The casket sat up front under a single weak
I have some
spotlight,
news.
plain oak.
What is it?
No flowers, no wreath,
It's about us.
nothing. Just her name on a small card someone from the
This
funeral home must have typed up
It's
last
where your
minute.
journey ends.
I could hear my own breathing, loud in the empty space. In, out, in, out, in, out. Like I was the only thing left alive in here. The doors creaked once when I arrived, then nothing. No one else came. Not her sister, who used to call every Sunday, crying about how brave she was. Not the friends who'd brought casseroles and prayed over her for years. Not the co-workers who'd set up fundraisers, shaved their heads, worn those stupid awareness ribbons. No one, just me. I walked up to the casket, placed my hand on the cool wood, felt the grain under my palm. Thought about how many times Edie touched her skin, pretending to comfort her through chemo, nausea. How many nights Edie sat by the bed while she moaned softly for effect. How many times Edie believed her. My name is Daniel Harper. I'm 48 now. I was an architect, once designed homes for people who wanted perfect lives inside perfect walls. Spent 23 years married to the woman lying in that box. Built a life around her illness. Watched our savings drain. Watched our friends drift away because illness makes people uncomfortable after a while. Watched myself become smaller and smaller until I barely recognized the man in the mirror. And then I found out the truth. The rain kept falling. Somewhere in the back row, a radiator hissed. I stood there staring at the casket, feeling the weight of 10 years settle in my chest like wet concrete. 10 years of her terminal diagnosis. 10 years of sympathy cards, hospital visits that never happened, scans I never saw, doctors I never met. I didn't cry, not then. I just whispered to the empty room, to her, to the silence. You won the sympathy game for a decade, but in the end, look around. This is what winning looks like. I turned and walked back to the pew, sat down, crossed my legs, waited. No one came. And that's when the real story, the one I've carried alone all these years, started clawing its way out of me. Because this isn't just about a lonely funeral. This is about what came before, what I let happen, what I finally did about it. It started in the spring of 2012. I remember because the cherry blossoms were late that year, and she'd just come home from what she said was her first oncology appointment. She sat me down at the kitchen table, the same table we'd picked out together when we bought the house, and told me the words no one wants to hear. It's leukemia, rare kind, aggressive. They said, maybe 6 months, maybe a year if we're lucky. Her voice cracked perfectly, eyes glassy, hands trembling just enough. I believed her. Why wouldn't I wed? Been married 11 years then. No kids wed, decided early it wasn't for us. We had a quiet life, good jobs, a mortgage we could handle. I loved her, or thought I did. That night I held her while she cried. I called in sick the next day. Started researching treatments, clinical trials, second opinions. She said no, said the doctors were the best. Said she didn't want to chase false hope, so I believed. The first few months were hell. She lost her hair, shaved it in the bathroom while I was at work, left the clippings in the sink for me to find. I cried then, real tears. She let me shave my own head in solidarity. People at work sent cards. Neighbors brought food. Her sister flew in from Portland and stayed a week, sobbing every night. I took FMLA, cooked broth she barely touched. Held her hand through chemo days she spent mostly sleeping or pretending to. I watched her waste away, or so it seemed. She got thin, pale, bruised easily. I blamed the disease, but something nagged. Small things at first. She never let me go to appointments with her. Said she needed to process alone. Said the waiting rooms were too depressing. I respected that. Grief makes you respect stupid boundaries. She never showed me paperwork. No bills came to the house, said insurance handled it. No explanation of benefits. No explanation of anything. I started paying cash for experimental treatments she claimed weren't covered. Thousands, then tens of thousands. Our savings emptied. I took a second mortgage on the house. Told myself it was for her. For us, years passed. 2 years in, she went into remission for a few months. Gained weight. Hair grew back. We celebrated. Quiet dinner. Champagne. Sex for the first time in forever. I thought we'd beaten it. Then it came back. Worse, she said. Stage 4 now. Terminal again. Back to the bed. Back to the pain. Back to the donations. GoFundMe page her best friend set up. Raised over 80,000. People sent messages, prayers, stories of their own losses. I read every one. Felt guilty for every dollar. But the nagging grew louder. She started wearing scarves even after hair grew back. Said she was cold, always cold. She refused hospice. Said she wanted to die at home, with me. I started sleeping on the couch. Couldn't stand the smell of her illness, the fake vomit she induced sometimes, the metallic tanks of whatever she used to make her breath smell wrong. I hired a private nurse once. She fired her the next day. Said the woman was incompetent. I started digging. Not dramatically. Quietly. Looked at bank statements. Found transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Small at first. Then bigger. Asked her about it. She cried. Said it was for alternative treatments. Said she was ashamed. Said she didn't want me to know how much it cost. I believed her again, because love makes you stupid, but doubt is patient. 3 years ago, around the time she turned 45, Vi came home early from a site visit. Found her in the kitchen, laughing on the phone, full voice. Strong, no rasp, no weakness. She didn't hear me come in. Yeah, girl, they're eating it up. Another round of donations came in. I think I can stretch this another year, easy. She laughed again, real laugh. The one she used to save for dirty jokes when we were dating. I stood in the doorway, frozen. She turned, saw me. Face changed like someone flipped a switch. Back to pale, back to trembling. Daniel, you're home early. I didn't say anything. Just walked upstairs. Locked myself in the office. Started searching. Medical records. Nothing under her name at any hospital in the state. Insurance claims. 0 for oncology. Pharmacy records. No chemo drugs. No pain meds beyond over-the-counter. Then the emails. She'd forgotten to log out of her account on the shared laptop. Messages to her sister. To her best friend. Laughing about how easy it was. How much money. How sorry they felt for me, but not sorry enough to stop. One line burned into me. Hayes so good at playing the devoted husband. Almost makes me feel bad. Almost I sat there until dawn, reading, saving screenshots, crying quietly so she wouldn't hear. Then I made a plan. Not loud, not angry, cold. I didn't confront her that day, or the next week, or the next month. I waited. I filed for divorce quietly. No fault, no explanation needed in this state. She signed without reading. Said she understood this changes people. I moved out, left her the house, said I couldn't handle watching her die. She cried, begged me to stay. I said no, told no one the truth, not her family, not our friends, not the people who'd donated. I let them believe, let them keep sending cards, keep praying, keep thinking she was brave. I disappeared from her life. New apartment, new number, new routine. She kept the act up for years. Posted updates on social media until the accounts went quiet. I watched from afar, never liked, never commented. Then last month, the call came, her sister, voice shaking. Daniel, she's gone. Passed in her sleep last night. I said I was sorry. Asked if she needed anything. She said no, said the funeral was small, said most people had moved on. I said I'd be there. And here I am, sitting in this empty chapel, listening to rain, thinking about the man I used to be, the man who believed, the man who loved, the man who learned, and the man who decided that sometimes the cruelest justice isn't loud, it's quiet, it's absence. It's letting the world see what happens when the sympathy runs dry, and the truth finally shows its face. I look at the casket one last time, whisper again. You always wanted to be the center of attention. I stand, button my jacket, walk to the door. The rain has slowed to a drizzle. I step outside. No one follows. No one ever will. That's the end of her story. But mine's just beginning. Now the backstory. It wasn't always like this. We met in college, spring of '99. I was 21, studying architecture at the State University. She was 20, art major, long dark hair, laugh that turned heads. We locked eyes across the quad during some stupid protest about tuition hikes. She was holding a sign that read, "Education isn't a luxury." I thought it was clever. We started dating that weekend. She was fire, passionate, dramatic in the best way. Told stories that made everyone lean in. I was quieter, builder, planner. We balanced. Married 3 years later. Small ceremony. Her in white, me in a suit. I'd saved months for, promised forever. The first years were good. Normal. We bought the house in the suburbs. 2 cars, vacations to the coast. Sex that felt like discovery every time. Then the diagnosis. Looking back, the signs were there even earlier. She'd always loved attention. Not in a bad way, at least I didn't think so. She lit up when people complimented her paintings, when friends asked her advice, when strangers smiled at her in line. But illness is the ultimate spotlight. No one questions a sick person. No one doubts their pain. No one asks them to contribute when they're dying. I see it now. But back then, I just loved her. When she told me about the leukemia, I believed because I wanted to protect her. I became her shield, her nurse, her bank, her audience. And she played the part so well. The hair loss, the weight loss. She used diet pills and skipped meals when I was around. The bruises, she admitted later in those emails, she used makeup and pinched herself. The vomiting ipecac syrup, easy to buy, easy to hide. The fatigue, she slept a lot. Real sleep, because lying is exhausting. Her family bought it completely. Her sister, especially, called me a saint for staying. Friends drifted, but the ones who stayed sent money, food, cards. I worked double shifts to keep up. Lost friends who said I was too focused on her illness. Lost promotions because I missed deadlines. Lost pieces of myself. But I kept going, because I thought she was dying. Denial is a slow poison. First year confusion. Why no hospital stays? Why no visible ports? Why won't she let me in? I asked once. She cried, said I didn't trust her, said the disease made her feel ugly. Ashamed, I backed off. Second year, doubt creeps. Small cracks, bills not adding up. I ignored them. Third year, anger, quiet, buried. I started drinking more. Not enough to notice, just enough to sleep. Fourth year, numbness. I stopped asking questions, just existed. Then the remission, fake out. She got better. We traveled. Hawaii. She swam, ate, laughed. I thought miracle, then relapse. Back to bed. Back to donations. I was tired, so tired, but still, I stayed. Until that phone call, that laugh, that almost makes me feel bad. That's when the anger burned clean. No screaming, no throwing things, just clarity. I would not let her die comfortably in the lie. I would not give her the big send-off, the tearful goodbyes, the packed church. I divorced her quietly, left her alone with the house, the debt, the act, told no one. Let the world forget slowly. Her updates stopped getting likes. Comments dried up. Sympathy has an expiration date. When she actually died, heart attack, they said, probably from years of stress, or pills, or whatever she used to keep the illusion alive. Only her sister called me. Only I showed up. And now here we are. The plan wasn't revenge at first. It was survival. Then it became justice, poetic, lonely, perfect. I didn't wake up one day and decide to destroy her. It happened slowly, like ice forming on a window. You don't see it until the view is gone. After that phone call, the one where she laughed about stretching the lie, another year I sat in the dark office for hours. The house was quiet. She was downstairs watching television, some medical drama. Ironic, I opened my laptop, started a new folder, labeled it insurance. Every screenshot, every email, every bank transfer, every fake GoFundMe update. I hired a discreet private investigator, not cheap, but worth it. He confirmed what I already knew. No medical records, no doctor visits, just a string of cash apps to her sister, to her best friend, to an account in the Caymans I never knew about. She'd been saving, for what? A new life. Her escape didn't matter. I met with a lawyer, quiet man, no judgment. We drafted the papers, no fault divorce, irreconcilable differences. I moved my money first, half the savings to a new account, half the investments. The house stayed in both names for now. I didn't want her penniless, not yet. I wanted her exposed by time. When I told her I was leaving, she cried. Real tears this time, maybe. Said she needed me. Said the cancer was back worse. Said please. I looked at her, saw the woman I'd loved, saw the stranger she'd become, said I couldn't do it anymore. She begged. I left. Took only clothes, my tools, my laptop, left the rest. She called for weeks. Texts, voicemails. I changed my number, blocked her, moved to a small apartment across town, started over. She kept the charade alive, posted updates. Pain is bad today. Prayers appreciated. Daniel left because he couldn't handle it. People believed her. Of course they did. She was the victim, always had been. I watched the likes decrease, comments slow, donations stop. Her sister called me once, yelled, said, how could I abandon her? I said nothing, hung up. Years passed, I rebuilt. new job, new friends. No one knew the story I never told. Kept the folder, kept the proof. Never used it, didn't need to. Time was doing the work. Then the call, her sister again, voice small, she's gone. I said, I'd come to the funeral. She said it would be small. I said I understood. Hung up, drove to the florist the day before, bought nothing. Watched the rain, thought about walking away. But no, I needed to see it. Needed to sit in the silence. Needed to feel the absence. So I went in, alone, and waited. The casket arrived, plain, no flowers, no music, just me and her and the truth. I sat through the hour. No minister, no eulogy, just rain and breathing. When it was over, I stood, touched the wood one last time, said nothing, walked out. The rain had stopped, sun breaking through. I got in the car, drove away, didn't look back. Revenge isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quietest thing in the world. An empty room, a lonely casket, a man who finally stopped playing the part, and a woman who finally ran out of audience. I didn't plan to feel anything when I walked into that chapel. I told myself it would be clinical, detached, like reading the last page of a book you already knew the ending to. But the moment I pushed open the heavy door and smelled the old wood and damp hymnals, something shifted inside my chest. Not guilt exactly, not triumph either, more like recognition. This was the room where the mask finally fell off both of us. Hers had been cancer. Mine had been devotion. I sat in the front pew again, same one as before. The cushion sighed under me like it remembered my weight from the hour before. The casket hadn't moved, still plain, still silent. The little typed card with her name, Rebecca Lynn Harper, looked smaller now that the room had stayed empty for so long. I leaned forward, elbows on knees, hands clasped so tight, my knuckles went white, and I started talking to her, not loud, not angry, just talking. The way I used to talk to her when she was sleeping through another fake treatment day, when I thought she couldn't hear me. You remember the night we painted the bedroom? My voice sounded too big in the quiet. 2 coats of that soft grey you picked. You said it would feel like sleeping inside a cloud. We got paint in our hair, laughed until we couldn't breathe. Then we made love on the drop cloth like we were 20 again. I paused, listened to the rain tap against the stained glass windows, colours bleeding dull reds and blues across the floor. I believed every promise we made that night, every touch, every future we sketched on the ceiling while the paint dried. My throat tightened. I kept believing, Rebecca, long after the math stopped adding up, long after the doctors never materialized, long after I started hiding money so you wouldn't bleed us dry for another round of imaginary radiation. I looked at the casket. You were brilliant, you know that. Oscar level. The way you timed the fevers. The way you'd shiver exactly when someone walked in the room. The way you'd whisper, I'm so tired, Daniel, right when I was about to ask a hard question. A small, bitter laugh escaped me. I used to think I was protecting you. Then I thought I was protecting us. Then I realized I was just protecting the story you wrote. The one where you're the tragic heroine and I'm the loyal supporting character who never quite gets the spotlight. I stood up, walked to the casket again. This time I didn't touch it. I just stood there, close enough that I could see the faint grain of the oak and the brass handles someone had polished anyway, even though no one would notice. I didn't tell anyone, I said. Not your sister. Not the friends who cried over you. Not the strangers who sent $20 because cancer is hell. I let them keep believing. Let them keep mourning the version of you they loved. I took one slow breath. That was my cruelty. Not shouting, not exposing the emails, not showing the screenshots, just silence. Letting the audience leave the theater one by one until the lights came up and there was only you on stage. No applause, no curtain call. My voice cracked then, just once. I didn't want you to die alone because I hated you. I wanted you to die alone because that's what you built. A life that only existed when people were watching. I turned away from the casket, walked back to the pew, sat again. The radiator hissed louder now, like it was impatient. I thought about the years after I left, how I rebuilt in small, careful pieces. New apartment with bare walls. New job where no one knew my history. New routines, coffee at 6:30 instead of 7. Running at dusk instead of dawn. Sleeping on the left side of the bed even though no one was on the right. I never dated, never even tried. How do you explain that kind of scar to someone new? Hi, I'm Daniel. My wife faked terminal cancer for 10 years, and I quietly erased myself from her spotlight. No. So I stayed alone. Not because I was broken, because I was finished pretending. Her sister called again 3 days after the funeral, voiced thinner than I remembered. Daniel, there's no one left to go through her things. The house is going into foreclosure next month. I can't fly out again, would you? Could you just make sure the important papers are safe? Photos, jewelry, something for me to keep. I said yes, not out of kindness, out of curiosity. I wanted to see what remained when the performance ended. I drove back to the house on a Saturday morning in late October. Sky the color of old steel. Leaves already gone. The key still worked. Inside smelled like dust and vanilla candles she used to burn when she wanted people to think the house was cozy despite illness. Everything looked the same. Same couch, same coffee table, same framed photos of us smiling on beaches we barely remembered. I walked through slowly. Kitchen, empty fridge, take-out containers stacked in the trash like evidence. Living room, blankets still folded the way she liked it, hospital corners, even when no one was watching. Bedroom, bed made, pillows arranged. Nightstand with 3 pill bottles, none of them prescription, just vitamins, ibuprofen. An empty bottle of Ipecac tucked behind the lamp, like a prop she forgot to throw away. I opened the closet. Her clothes still hung there. Dresses she wore when she was in remission. Jeans she never filled out again after the first fake weight loss. At the very back, a box, cardboard tape yellowed. I pulled it out. Inside, printouts of every GoFundMe update she ever posted. Screenshots of comments. A ledger handwritten tracking donations down to the cent. A second, smaller notebook labeled stories. I opened it. Pages and pages of invented symptoms. Lies she told different people so the stories wouldn't cross. Tell Linda it's bone pain today. Tell Mum the doctors said lungs now. Tell Daniel I'm scared but don't want him to worry. I read until my eyes burned. Then I closed the notebook. Put everything back exactly as I found it. Locked the door behind me. Never went back. Her sister got a box in the mail 2 weeks later. Photos. A necklace she always wore. One of the beach pictures. No note. No explanation. Just the pieces she asked for. The rest, the ledger, the pills, the notebook I left in the house. Let the bank find them when they cleared it out. Let whatever cleaning crew comes next discover the truth in fragments, or not. It didn't matter anymore. I kept one thing, a single photograph from our wedding day, not framed, not displayed, just tucked inside my wallet, behind my driver's license. So every time I show ID, I see her smiling the way she smiled before she learned how much power there was in suffering. I don't hate her, not really. I hate what we became. I hate how long I let myself be the audience instead of the man who walked out of the theater. But mostly, I just feel quiet. The kind of quiet that comes after a long storm passes and you realize the house is still, standing even if the windows are cracked and half the roof is gone. I drive home from the chapel that day, sun low now, gold light cutting across the dashboard. I don't turn on the radio. I just listen to the tires on wet pavement. And for the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm waiting for something. The reckoning wasn't her death. It wasn't the empty funeral. It was the moment I finally stopped needing her to be the villain and let myself stop being the hero of her story. The house went into foreclosure exactly 7 weeks after the funeral. I didn't go to the auction, didn't need to. I already knew what the inside looked like when the performance was over, props scattered, spotlight off, audience long gone. But something pulled me back one last time. Not nostalgia, not closure, curiosity, maybe. Or the part of me that still wanted proof the whole thing hadn't been a fever dream I'd invented to justify walking away. It was a Tuesday evening, just after dark. Streetlights buzzing orange. The for sale bank-owned sign stabbed crooked into the front lawn like someone had driven it in angry. I used the old key one final time. The lock clicked softer than I remembered, like it was tired too. Inside, the air was thick stale heat, dust, the faint ghost of vanilla from those candles she used to burn. Power was still on somehow. One bulb in the hallway flickered when I flipped the switch. Everything else stayed dark. I didn't turn on more lights, didn't want to see it too clearly. I walked the rooms like a stranger touring a crime scene. Kitchen first, fridge door hanging open, a crack someone had cleaned it out, probably her sister or a realtor. A single magnet still clung to the side, a cartoon crab from that trip to Maryland we took right after the first diagnosis. It said, "Pinch me, I'm in remission." She'd laughed so hard buying it. I stared at it until the bulb overhead gave one last pop and died. Living room next, couch sagging in the middle where she used to lie for days. The throw blanket she always kept folded, just so gone, probably in a donation box somewhere. The coffee table still held a stack of old magazines, cancer awareness issues, survivor stories. She used to leave them open to the right pages when company came over. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall, knees up, hands loose between them, and I let myself remember the nights I believed her completely. The night she crashed so hard I had to carry her to bed, her body limp, breath shallow. I called an ambulance. She woke up just as the sirens got close, suddenly alert, suddenly terrified, begged me to cancel it. Said she didn't want to die in a hospital, said she wanted to be home, with me. I cancelled, held her all night while she shook, whispered that I'd never leave. I believed every second of it. Another memory, the morning after her chemo days. She'd lie in bed, pale and sweating. I'd bring her ginger tea, toast with the crusts cut off. She'd take one bite, push it away. I'd eat the rest standing at the sink so she wouldn't see me crying. I thought I was saving her life, one small kindness at a time. Now I see it differently. Every cup of tea, every cancelled plan, every second mortgage payment, every head I shaved in solidarity, every prayer I whispered into the dark when she was asleep. They weren't acts of love, they were lines in her script, and I delivered them perfectly. I stood up, Walked to the hallway closet, opened it. Her winter coat still hung there. Long black wool, the one she wore to every fake appointment. I pulled it down, held it. It still smelled faintly of her perfume, something floral and expensive I bought her for our 15th anniversary. I pressed my face into the collar for just a second, not to remember her, to remember who I was when I still thought she was worth saving. Then I let it drop to the floor. Upstairs, the bedroom, bed stripped bare, mattress stained in places I didn't want to think about. Her nightstand drawer, half open, inside lipstick, a half-empty pack of cigarettes she never smoked around me, a small notebook I hadn't seen before. I opened it. Dates, names, amounts. Linda told her platelets low again. Sent $200. Mark from old job said hospice starting soon. Vemos $150. Sister needs to believe it's lungs now. Keep crying on calls, pages of it, meticulous, like she was running a small business. The last entry was dated 3 weeks before she died. Almost out of steam. Heart racing too much lately. Might need to wrap this up soon. Daniel still hasn't cracked. Bastard. I closed the notebook slowly. Set it back exactly where I found it. Downstairs again. Kitchen. I opened the junk drawer, the one we always threw batteries and takeout menus into. Buried under old keys and rubber bands. A flash drive. Black. No label. I took it, drove home. Plugged it into my laptop at 2 a.m. with the curtains closed. Videos, dozens. Her in the bathroom mirror. Practicing. Voice weak. I don't know how much longer I have. Voice stronger. The doctors said it's spreading fast. Laughing between takes. Fixing her makeup to look more sallow. Testing how long she could hold her breath to make her lips blue. One clip, her sitting on the edge of the tub, phone propped up, recording herself cry, real tears. She watched the playback, smiled, wiped her face, did that one in one take. They're gonna lose it. I watched until the battery died. Then I sat in the dark, screen glowing blue on my face. No rage, no breakdown, just emptiness. The kind that comes when the last illusion finally collapses and there's nothing left to hold on to, not even hate. I deleted the files, formatted the drive, threw it in the trash under coffee grounds so no one would ever fish it out. Next morning, I called a junk removal service, paid extra for same day, told them to take everything, furniture, clothes, papers, all of it. They asked if I wanted to keep any photos. I said no. Watched from across the street as they loaded the truck. The crab magnet went in last. Tumbled into a cardboard box with a bunch of chipped mugs. When the truck pulled away, the house looked smaller, like it had exhaled and finally shrunk. I never went back. Months later, her sister sent one last message. Found some things in storage. Thought you might want this. Attached a photo of us at the wedding. Same one I kept in my wallet. I didn't reply. I just looked at it for a long time, then closed the message. Moved it to a folder called Before, and that was it. The fall wasn't dramatic. No crash, no explosion. It was quiet, like a door closing on an empty room. Like the last person leaving the theater and the lights slowly coming up on nothing. She fell first out of attention, out of sympathy, out of breath. Then the lie fell. Then the house. Then the last scraps of who we used to be. And me, I didn't fall. I just stopped carrying the weight. Stopped being the devoted husband. Stopped being the betrayed victim. Stopped being anything she wrote into her story. For the first time in 23 years, I stood up straight in my own life. And the silence that followed, it sounded like freedom. I thought the quiet would feel like victory. It didn't. It felt like breathing underwater, slow, deliberate. Every inhale reminding me how much space used to be filled with her voice, her coughs, her excuses, my questions. The first few months after the house was emptied were strange in the smallest ways. I'd reach for the coffee pot at 6:30 in the morning and realize I didn't have to make 2 cups anymore. I'd walk into my apartment and notice how the silence didn't need filling. No television left on low for background comfort. No soft footsteps pretending weakness from the hallway. Just me, and the sound of keys hitting the bowl by the door, and the refrigerator humming like it always had somewhere else. I started running again. Not the punishing kind I did when anger was fresh. Slow ones, dusk ones. The kind where the city lights come on one street at a time and you can hear your own heartbeat instead of hers. People ask how you're doing after something like that. They don't really want the answer. So I learned the short version, getting there. Day by day, better than yesterday. They nod, pat my shoulder, move on. No one asks for the long version because the long version doesn't fit in polite conversation. How do you explain that you spent 23 years married to a performance? That the woman you loved died twice, once when the lie was born, and again when her body finally caught up to the story? I kept the wedding photo in my wallet for another year, not because I missed her, because I needed the reminder of what belief looks like before it curdles. Then one morning, early maybe around 5:30, I took it out, set it on the kitchen counter next to the coffee maker, looked at her smile, looked at mine, both so young, both so sure. I carried it to the balcony. It was October, again different year, same cold bite in the air. I held the photo over the railing for a long time, watched the street below wake up slowly, delivery trucks, joggers, someone walking a dog that pulled too hard on the leash. Then I let go. The picture fluttered down like a dead leaf, landed face up on the sidewalk. A man in a suit stepped over it without noticing. A few minutes later, a street cleaner swept it into the gutter with everything else. I didn't feel lighter. I didn't feel heavier. I just felt done. Work became the place I rebuilt most quietly. I took on bigger projects again. Houses with open floor plans, big windows, rooms that let light move through instead of trapping it. Clients would ask why I specialized in homes now instead of commercial buildings. I'd tell them the truth without telling them anything. People need places that feel honest. They'd nod like they understood. They didn't, but that was okay. I started dating again around the second spring after she died. Not searching, just open. A woman named Claire, 41, graphic designer, divorced 5 years, no kids. We met at a bookstore, cafe. She was reading something thick and literary. I was pretending to read blueprints on my tablet. We talked for 2 hours about nothing important. Books, coffee. The way rain sounds different on metal roofs versus shingles. She asked about my ring, finger smooth now. No mark even. I told her I'd been married once. Long time ago. It ended badly. She didn't press. Just said, badly is a big word. Covers a lot. I liked that. We saw each other slowly. Dinners, walks, movies where we sat close but didn't hold hands right away. One night late, after a bottle of red and a movie neither of us paid much attention to, she asked the question I'd been waiting for. What happened with your marriage? I looked at the ceiling for a long time, listened to the radiator click, felt the weight of 10 years and one funeral settle again. She was sick, I said finally. Or I thought she was, for a very long time. Claire waited, didn't fill the silence. Then I found out she wasn't. Not in the way I believed. She built a whole world around being sick, and I lived in it with her. I took a breath. The hardest part wasn't the lie. It was realizing how much of myself I gave to keep the lie comfortable. Claire reached across the couch, took my hand, not dramatic. Just there. You stayed anyway, she said quietly. That says something about who you are. I shook my head. It says I was afraid. Afraid of what it meant if I stopped believing. She didn't argue. Just squeezed once. Let go. We didn't talk about it again that night or the next. But it was there between us. No honest, small, no longer hidden. Time passed the way it does when you stop measuring it against someone else's suffering. Claire and I didn't rush. We built something careful. No big gestures. No promises carved in stone. Just days that stacked quietly into months. One evening, maybe a little past 8, we were cooking together in her kitchen. Nothing fancy. Pasta, garlic, wine. She looked over at me while stirring sauce, smiled the way people do when they're not performing. You're different lately, she said, quieter, but not the heavy kind. I set the cutting board down, wiped my hands on a towel. I think I finally stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. She nodded, turned the burner lower, came around the island, stood close enough that I could smell the rosemary on her fingers. Good, she said. Because I like this version of you. I kissed her then. Slow, real, no audience, no script. Later that night, lying in the dark with her breathing soft against my shoulder, I thought about the chapel again, the rain, the empty pews, the casket with no flowers. I didn't feel anger, didn't feel pity. I just felt separate, like I'd finally stepped out of the frame of her story and into one that had room for me to exist without apology. Revenge, if that's what you want to call it, wasn't the lonely funeral. It wasn't the silence that followed. It wasn't even the house being swept clean. It was this, waking up one morning and realizing the first thought in my head wasn't about her. Not the lie, not the loss, not the years I gave. Just the day ahead. Coffee, work, maybe a walk later. Maybe Claire's laugh when I tell her something stupid. That was the real retribution. Not absence, presence, mine. Finally mine. I still dream about her sometimes. Not often, but when I do, she's always smiling the way she did in the old photos, bright, unguarded, before the performance started. In the dream, I don't speak to her. I just watch. Then I turn and walk away, and the dream ends without drama. No doors slamming, no final words. Just me, stepping into light I didn't have to earn by carrying someone else's darkness. And when I wake up, the room is quiet. But it's the good kind now. The kind that holds space instead of swallowing it. I get up, make coffee, open the curtains, let the morning in. And for the first time in decades, the day feels like it belongs to me.